All right, start recording. Hi, everyone. So welcome to our first Impaction Skype session. We're really excited to be with all of you today, social entrepreneurs and innovators in your own chosen fields. So we're here to jumpstart this Skype session because we want to show the power of collaborative innovation across many sectors and in a way that incorporates many different viewpoints. So the power of collaborative innovation is to show how people with different viewpoints can come together to make positive change in their local environments. So we're excited to kick off this entire session with you. And I can go through and introduce myself, and then we would love to hear from all of you. Just a brief description, like 2 sentences or less, so we can actually get to the crux of this particular session, which is the article that we're talking about today. So I'll jumpstart it. I'm Shivani. I'm one of the co-founders of Impaction, and I'm a graduate student at George Washington University. Suki, you want to go next?
Thank you. So I'm also one of the co-founders of Impaction. Me and Shivani met at Ashoka Innovators for the Public, where we were interning last summer, and that's how Impaction was born. And I'm a graduate student at NYIT pursuing my master's in the field of human resource management. Next to you, Tanvi.
Hi, thanks. I'm Tanvi, and I am a recent graduate from University of Maryland. I met Shivani like a week or two ago, and I joined Shivani and Sukanya at Impaction as a product manager. Now the floor is open to you guys.
Maribel, you want to jumpstart?
Sure. I'm Maribel. I am a recent graduate from American University's Social Enterprise program, and I am closely tied to issues of education, specifically children and youth well-being, as well as immigration, specifically showing people the value that immigrants bring through photography and video. So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome, thank you. Bethany, you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Bethany. I'm a master's candidate at Marquette University working on my master's in international affairs. So this is my second of 2 years, thank goodness. And I work right now in a nonprofit that does refugee resettlement. So I'm working on research in refugee integration and like programmatic evaluation. But I'm excited to be here.
Awesome, thank you. Adam, you're next. Oof. I don't think we can hear you anymore. Yeah. No. Okay. While we are waiting.
No.
Hi guys, can you hear?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Hi, I'm Adam. I'm in the human resources space in organizational development and training and development, and I'm also an MBA student in Georgetown University. So, and I'm really passionate about education and empowering others through developing their potential and their leadership. Thank you.
Adam. And then Chetan, on to you.
Hi, I'm Chetan. I'm currently pursuing my undergraduation, and I think I'm the youngest over here. It sounds good to be the younger one. And I'm working in the field of blood donation from the past 2 years, trying to lower down the risk of deaths due to lack of blood in the Indian societies. Thank you.
Thank you, Chetan. Awesome. We've got a lot of different interests here, so let's see how that kind of plays out in this article that we're discussing today. So let's get started. So when it comes to this particular article, I'm going to briefly share my screen. I know you guys got a chance to take a look at this article before the call, but can everyone see my screen?
No.
No?
That's okay. If
Yeah.
it's the article, I can pull it up.
Yeah, I just... Okay, how about now?
No. Is it the article?
Yeah, it is the article.
I'll just pull it up on my...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Oh, are you going to share the article, like share your screen?
Oh, me? No. I
Okay.
mean, everyone else can see your screen.
Everyone
No,
see
just...
the screen?
Yeah, Shivani, I think you should share a screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. Awesome. So there's this screen, this article by Global Citizen, which describes a doctor. His name is Mohamad Chisti. He created an innovative, low-cost way of helping combat the child's pneumonia epidemic in Bangladesh. And so this came about when he was a pediatrician in training. He witnessed many young children dying of pneumonia and felt that there was a need to create a low-cost, accessible product that could positively impact large groups of people. So as a result, he created an artificial ventilator out of shampoo bottles, an oxygen supply, and some tubing in his hospital. This resulted a 75% drop in infant deaths in the actual hospital he was working in. Additionally, his invention decreased hospital spending on pneumonia treatment by 90%. So all of this article says that a normal ventilator like this can be upwards of $15,000 in America. But this particular invention cost $1.25 to make, which is incredible. In Bangladesh, pneumonia causes 28% of infant mortality. So there's definitely a need for a service for an invention like this. So he hopes to expand this device to Ethiopian hospitals very soon. So that's a brief summary of what this article is about for the people that are watching. But I just want to know what are your immediate thoughts and feelings about this particular article. And anyone can start talking.
I'm happy to start us off.
Yeah.
So once again, I'm Maribel. I guess my initial thoughts were just how amazing the Dr. Mohamad Chisti's courage is. I think it takes courage to sort of see something at work and get out of the routine and sort of analyze in the moment while you're probably have so many things to do and say, hey, maybe there's something else we can do and it's up to me to do it. I think one of the biggest learning lessons in life is if we see something we don't like, it's up to us if no one else is doing it. And if no one else is doing it, then, taking that responsibility yourself to be that, I guess, change within your organization. So that usually takes a lot of awareness and courage. I guess my second reaction, though, is more on the critical end, which is sort of based on the material that the bottles are made out of. I didn't personally get a chance to do deep research on this, but there are some probably rumors that reusing plastic bottles that are single use might have some maybe toxic ingredients that can maybe be left behind as residue in the water, or if that ventilator is filled with water. So that was just really my only concern. It was more of a technical concern. Is this product, because he's a doctor and not sure what the details are of how he created the product, did they think through all these aspects? Because there is probably a reason why the other product was much more expensive, maybe perhaps more time researching, who knows. But that was really just my only concern there, maybe a long-term risk for them. that's about it for now.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I just don't want to be the one that continues talking, so I'm hoping to hear from others.
Yeah, I had a similar thought in terms of the materials and how we would make sure that there wouldn't be like unintended consequences. And I think reusing plastic in like a productive way is a great idea, but I don't know, like you said, how much we know about the potential negative, like pieces to the materials and things like that. I do think that there would probably be some sort of solution to making a plastic that could be like reutilized plastic that's like specifically for this project. So I'm sure like research could be done. I'm not like a chemist, so I don't know what that would entail, but I had a similar reaction when thinking about the possibilities of like solving this health problem while like simultaneously reducing like plastic waste, and like where those environmental things can meet up with other things is always like a fascinating conversation to be had, because a lot of materials exist that we could be reusing. So
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I can go next. So I just think it takes a lot of compassion as well, because Dr. Chisti was saying that what led him to start this was that he could not, bear one more person dying from pneumonia. And I think a lot of people's success stories start from someone suffering and someone really wanting to make a change from something. So I just wanted to point that out. And then the other thing is, I like how scalable this is, because he's wanting to do this in Ethiopia and other hospitals. And I think Maribel brought up a good point, because I don't know about the toxic part and how sustainably, helpful this is in terms of the health reasons. But other than that, if everything is scalable and it works out, I think it's a great idea for people and communities who don't have other technology.
Okay, I think I could carry over with what Adam said, because I had the same thoughts. So the first thought I got was how this entire idea started with something very emotional and connective. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
yes.
Yeah. So how the very first thought of creating something so cheaper and still effective came from seeing someone suffer, and how he couldn't see more people suffering, and came up with his own research and came up with the idea of the plastic bottles. And when it comes to the toxic thing, I think this is the initial stages of the innovation he has came up with, and maybe as he mentions, he's working on testing the same and conducting more trials in Ethiopia. So maybe there might be an alternative to plastic which he might come up in the near future, or somebody else might suggest him. So at this moment, I don't think that would be a big concern, but yeah, that's my thought.
Yeah, I feel like this is kind of the prototype, because he did launch this product in 2017, so it's relatively new. And again, like a big question for me is about the metrics of the hospital, right? Like how many wards there are. If they're saying that this reduced cost by 90%, it's like the statistics is always something that we have to critically analyze, because it is, after all, this is publicly, this is informative, but it's also a publicized piece, so it gives light to bigger questions, especially in the innovation space. And I think, especially with the contamination part, it seems like I'm not exactly how the chemistry or how everything played out, but in order for something like this to be integrated in a hospital, hospitals must have needed to trust him a lot, because you're literally dealing with a life and death situation when it comes to this.
So What concerns me more is in few of the other articles apart from the Global Citizen, they mention it's a plastic bottle rather than a normal plastic bottle. So if I'm not wrong, plastic bottles are more toxic than normal plastic bottles because they have an internal coating of another type of material so that uh, the shampoo stays for a longer time or whatever it is.
I guess like that's my question too. I mean, there's residue, but there's also toxicity not only in the actual contents of the shampoo, but in the like I don't know. It's not the inseam, but it's like that internal container. Yeah, it's very. I don't know. It seems like this is kind of an extreme that he used, and he may have used a different type of bottle for the actual integration and hospital and making that clear.
Just to add an extra point to what Shivani said, in the article it was mentioned that he's planning to expand this idea even to Ethiopia. So in order for Ethiopian hospitals to accept this idea, I think this idea is proven and the products being used will not be toxic for the health is my assumption. Do enough you have any opinion on that?
Can you repeat the last part?
So in the article it was mentioned he was planning to expand this idea even to Ethiopia. For hospitals in Ethiopia to accept this idea, it has to be proven and safe for them to implement it in their own country. So my assumption is that the process being used in Bangladesh should have been effective without causing much health issues to everyone to reduce the infant mortality. So my conclusion is that the shampoo bottle is not that toxic to cause any health issues. So do you guys have any ideas or analysis to my point?
I guess I want to say that I don't know the research or like what he has already put out outside of the article, but I wonder if moving to Ethiopia or whatever country, he can always just present it with the research like this is the scalability, this is the sustainability, and this is the risk and factors. And I'm sure someone will question the toxic part of that too. So maybe he can just come up with all the research beforehand about how toxic or not toxic the bottles are. And I wonder if he could come up with an alternative type of bottle too. It might be a little bit more costly, but like a glass bottle or like one of those water bottles that we drink out of that are like that have the thermos in them, those kind of things. I don't know if it works the same, but having more than one kind of bottle and product that each country or each place can choose.
True. And Adam, to
Okay,
add
so
more to your point, I believe to enhance the technology, maybe they could bring in some experts to give their opinion on using plastics to combat pneumonia in Bangladesh or any other developing countries if they're planning to implement this idea. So I believe, again, it's an assumption from my end that they would have asked opinions from experts specializing in different fields relating to the product before they could launch it in other countries is my analysis.
Yeah, that makes sense.
adding up to both of you, so this product is not new, and this came up back in 2015. So it's been over 3 years since the product was actually designed. So we don't know the actual state of the product now because the articles which were republished in 2018 is almost same to the article which was actually published in 2015. So we are just considering the story from 2015. So maybe there might be some new changes which might have come through in these 3 years. Instead of plastic bottles, there might be some other alternative which might have been used for the same idea and implemented. That's how he might have got into utopia hospitals. It's just my thought. Yeah.
True, Chetan. In order to make the product more effective and of better quality, probably he would have known the side effect that plastic could produce for his own country citizens, and he would have done his own research or taken other experts' thoughts on what alternatives he could use, or probably a lot of products are being animal tested. Maybe the same thing could have been tested on animals as well.
And the other point we could actually kind of consider over here is for a country like Bangladesh, shifting to any other product instead of a plastic bottle would actually increase the cost of the entire device by maybe more than 10 times, because even if you shift to like a normal water bottle which is not plastic, it would cost more than what the actual device is costing now. And for a developing country like Bangladesh, it would be hard to afford the same. So it also depends on the condition of the country whether it could afford or not.
Right.
Like it wouldn't matter much if it's United States or even India, but for a country like Bangladesh, it really depends on how cost effective we can make the device.
And also to add one more point, there are so many different brands that produce shampoos. So we don't know which brand's shampoo bottle he has used to develop this product. Maybe the quality of plastic used by that particular brand might be not that toxic and can be eco-friendly. So we we can never predict, and it's more based on assumptions before he's going to launch his product to other developing countries.
I also think, like, depending on where this would expand to, you could use products that are available domestically. Like if, like I know in West Africa, there's excessive like water bottle plastic, and they're like the big like 2 liter or 1 liter water bottles like that. I think that could be like an alternative. You would still have to consider like the chemistry of it, but based on what's available, like things could be adjusted. It's more just like the model of it that could be replicated pretty easily anywhere. So that I think is like the big takeaway from it.
I think you hit it right on the head. I think the idea that something like this is even possible is something that I think this article really wanted to bring up. Something that kind of showcases that an invention doesn't have to cost $15,000 in order for it to improve lives. I think that the cost effectiveness is what got me the most. Just showing the discrepancy between. I mean, granted, I'm sure they're leaving a lot of factors out, a lot of different applications probably out as well. When it comes to creating a very low-cost, minimalistic product like this. But if you're looking for a direct relationship, like these function and this product will produce this result, trying to funnel it down to a very linear relationship is I think he wanted to get to that instead of like kind of orbiting around this cloud and then getting to like the closest that you can get to the final result.
Yeah, at the end of the day, he's saving lives. So, the harm, if at all, is very minimal compared to the lives that are saved. So just want to end with that note because I started the skepticism, but that is overall the point there of the article and of the work that Mohamad is doing. I had a question for you all when a little bit after actually you guys started talking. I started thinking about America and maybe the relationship between innovation across borders and across nationalities and institutions and cultures within countries and across countries, and whether innovations that are cost savings are more are happening more in other countries outside of the U.S. I can't remember the exact name of this one innovation, which was a new kind of mammogram, which could display the potential cancer tumors more accurately, and the inventor was very shocked to find that she had a lot of pushback for something she thought and was certain that would save lives. So I'm not sure where that stands today, but it made me think just of how quickly the hospital was able to adopt his idea and go along, because it takes an ecosystem that values innovation for this to actually work out. So I just wanted to know your thoughts on are some places more open to these things, to actually putting this into action more quickly than others? Does it relate at all to the structure of business that the medical ecosystem includes? Like if, maybe one entity is more powerful and is competing with newer products, does that matter, right? So these were all questions that came up for me. If you guys want to talk to these points.
So, Maribel, I have a question for you. Sorry. Just wanted to know, what was the pushback about? Was it because the other companies were competing and they didn't want their revenue to be affected, or was it more ethical, or what?
Yeah, from my memory, it seemed to me that there was some element of that. During the conferences where new products are introduced, she was having issues with that as well. But there was also a cost issue. It was more costly than the older models, so that could have been another issue that facilities were concerned about. But just in general, like not even looking only at that example, just looking at innovation across countries, like do you think some countries are more open to adopting new innovations?
To be able to answer your question, I think there are a lot of laws governing different aspects, be it medical, technology, or innovation. There are protocols that every country follows relating to that particular field. So I believe that plays a very major role in answering your question, understanding the criticality of the situation, the issues the overall country is facing in that particular sector, the budget allocation. I think all those plays a major role. In USA, before launching a product out, a lot of research is done with a lot of experts involved. A lot of testing is being done before a product is finally approved, and it needs a lot of government departments to approve the product. So it varies from country to country. So that is my thought on your question.
I think to kind of be back on this, I think it's even if you think about it's less about the country. I think even if you look at different types of organizations here in the U.S., actually not even organizations. I think it goes specifically company by company, government by government. I think it's a very one-to-one relationship where there's a culture of innovation and integration in some companies while it isn't in others. And the amount of, like, the actual way that the system is played out, as in, is there more bureaucracy? Are there more players? Are there more hoops that you have to jump through in order to get maybe one basic policy or protocol or innovation passed or even looked at? It just very much depends. If you're talking on a very broad scale, and if you're talking about the culture of innovation, I think it's changing, it's evolving very quickly, depending on the sector, depending on the company. If we're holding all of those factors constant, but we're looking at a relationship with just country and innovation. I think I don't have a concrete answer for you, because if I say that, I think India, or if I think Pakistan is better at innovation than America, then I'm making a very blanket statement when I don't know all of the actors that are involved. But it's just, bureaucratically, there might be less hoops that you jump through, especially in developing nations. And I think it's very interesting, because recently, like the Impaction team, we read an article about how developed countries, they are essentially dumping all of their innovations onto developing countries, because they think of them as a test group where you can test that group, you can test whatever innovation, whatever protocol it is at a low cost, and the amount of empathy that you have created, like trying to, it's a very economic driven like what they think is the solution, and it's not very disaster oriented. There's a lot of costs that end up going to this, both morally speaking, humanity speaking. All of the moral frameworks of that is not there. But essentially Thailand is trying to end this game of global waste, where developed countries go into developing countries to test their innovations, or whatever they think their innovations are. And I know that I'm kind of just all over the place, but you raised a really important question that kind of got me to this place about how we treat innovations and people, and like what the intersection of that actually looks like.
And it's very relevant to even this one article and his situation, Mohamad's situation, because he's thinking about scaling to other countries, and also fighting perhaps different kinds of assumptions that might prevent his innovation to take off, and not to mention that he also started his innovation from it's like a bottom-up strategy that works well, and to your point that innovations usually start in developed countries and they bring it over. He's changing that dynamic by being the one who's acting on behalf of his own facility, his own people. So it's very, very relevant. But I just wanted to ask questions and make sure that we thought maybe around the article about the ecosystem that surrounds why this was able to happen.
I actually had a question for all of you as well. And Maribel, you kind of touched on this before. But like when we're thinking about the role of innovation and how people actually have to very much trust like this doctor's strategy, this new invention. I saw immediately, I thought it was a really cool idea, but immediately I thought of all of the risks when it came to integrating this new innovation when you're dealing with people's lives. So my question is, do the benefits outweigh the costs when it comes to this particular innovation?
I think you kind of have to almost separate the short term from the long term. Like even what we were talking about with like the sustainability of the bottles or whatever the potential risks to that are. If you decide that the short term benefits of like saving lives are more important than potential like negative unintended consequences, then it becomes a pretty clear case of like morally it's worth the risk of saving a life, even if down the road there might be unintended consequences. Those consequences aren't really relevant if that person's not there to begin with. So I think in this case, you can make a pretty like concise argument for the short term versus potential negative long-term effects. But of course, in other cases, it wouldn't maybe be as cut and dry. This seems to be pretty like a pretty clear case, but who knows how much that would apply in other cases. So.
I agree. I think basically what has been said is basically what I want to say too. But I think choosing to save someone's life is dramatically a lot more better because it's not comparable to, you know, costs of potentially toxicity or other revenue or ethical issues. So I just overall, at least the way the article has got to me, I think the benefits are higher at the moment.
Also, most importantly, one thing I learned from this article is when you want to achieve something or when you want to solve some pressing issue, you take initiative, you do your own research to come up with ideas. If you have expert in that particular field, and if you feel if you want to help your own people or help in reducing any particular issue that's really affecting the entire globe.
Tanvi, I haven't heard from you yet. Do you have any thoughts?
Well, I agree to all of you. It was great that Maribel raised the point early on about how risky these materials could be if used for healthcare purposes. But then I also agree for the fact that overall the bottom line is saving lives. And at the end, if it is successful, the costs, I mean, there would be irrelevant because even if it turns out that this plastic bottle, for example, is toxic, but it would, at least for that time being, give the baby the strength to recover from pneumonia. So it's not like it has to be used lifelong. So there has to be like a timeline of how long you're exposed to something to affect. So it would still, in the shorter time, help in its purpose, and the longer run would not have such dire effects. That's what I think.
Yeah, I definitely agree with
So
all
what
that
I
was said.
so what I feel is every product or everything which comes up in this world has its own positives and its own negatives. So it's totally dependent on what we focus on. So if we keep on resonating the negatives, then the negatives would play a very major role, and maybe this product could have never came into the market if everyone talked about the toxicity of plastic, and maybe he would not be able to save 600 children, which is mentioned in the article. So it's all about perspectives in the first case and then about the positives and negatives. That is what I feel.
I agree because even like 20, 30 years ago, I think the concept of plastics being bad and toxicity wasn't really even a topic. I think that's generally more new in our generation. So yeah, I just wanted to say that too.
Yeah, I agree with all that was said. That's definitely a really important aspect to this is to compare with the innovation, what are we able to do that we couldn't do before? And you all said it beautifully. In addition, being able to save the hospital 90%, you know, is tremendous because they can use the the money that they have for other treatments as well, or to save lives in other ways, other conditions that are prevalent in their facility. So that's another aspect to that is how many lives is he saving now with this product, and also how many lives is he indirectly saving by allowing funds to be allocated differently. So that's the other aspect to it. Having said that, I like how someone here had mentioned separating the short term with the long term. I think for short term, wow, definitely yes. And in the long term, looking more deeply and more consciously at this, especially since we're a population that will be aging. well into, our 70s, 80s, 90 years of age. So, and especially with even innovations outside of this country, and others where they're trying to see how long can we live, these will become more relevant later, as we try to live healthier lives overall, and look at that. So yeah.
And to add one more major point, I believe he created a very trusted environment where he can launch his product in his own hospital. So I believe he has a very good reputation at his hospital for delivering quality work. So considering that factor, I would say he decided to launch this product in his own hospital. And being a doctor, I know he knows that he must be knowing his work etiquettes, that launching some product could harm his own people and could tarnish his image as a doctor. So considering all these factors, I would like to conclude that he would have done his pre-research before launching this product. So as Chetan said, every product has got its own pros and cons. But maybe plastic has got a very positive effect in combating certain things like pneumonia. Maybe the material used in making plastics might help in curbing pneumonia using innovation. Maybe doing his own research, he came up with such an idea as my another thought.
I think those kind of pinpoints. I think Chetan and Maribel, you guys really hit it right on the head. I think it kind of pinpoints the scary culture behind innovation, especially if you look at it through a more negative viewpoint. I think it kind of creates a culture of, hey, what if this goes wrong? What if this goes badly? It can have adverse effects on so-and-so population. But we don't ask the question of, what if this goes perfectly as planned? We are always prepared for the negative instead of looking towards the positive, especially when it comes to innovation and introducing something new. So I think, you guys hit it right on the head.
And Shivani, to add one more point to what you said, to whatever I've seen in so many years, media publishes articles that's proven to a certain extent and that has a positive impact on the society, especially considering social impact news.
Yeah, I completely agree. So we have 2 minutes left in this session, but does anyone have any concluding thoughts that they want to say?
I have a burning thought if no one else wants to say something. So I thought Mohamad was a great example of how successfully you can be a so-called social entrepreneur, so a person making change from within. So that being said, I want to ask you all, what do you think made this all possible? Because it's not easy. If any of you have tried to make change in your organization, maybe you see how difficult even like the smallest details can become. So do you have any thoughts on that I think would be a sweet last thought?
Well, I'm sure like a couple people said the fact that he was like well respected and he tried this in an environment where he had like established credibility and legitimacy like definitely helped him. So having like allies on your side when you're trying to innovate, especially with something like pretty drastic like this, is a good first step. And without knowing all of the like intricate details of his like work environment, we can't say specifically, but I'm sure that was like a significant factor in him being able to pilot this and have the like sort of the administration and bureaucracy behind him with it. So.
Well, I think the people in an organization that become kind of negative when it comes to bringing about change, especially the one that helps other people in some way, are kind of convinced if you talk about the bottom line, about saving them costs, about profits. So I think that was a good part for him. It was a good backing for him when he came up with this device.
That aligns with shared value, win-win concept that I think could have been mentioned in this topic as well, which you just mentioned actually. So
Able to add some to your point, change doesn't happen instantly. It takes a lot of time, and I believe he created that changing environment to implement his idea. So as usual, it would have involved a lot of planning to launch his product, to create a change in to solve one of the most pressing issues in Bangladesh. So
So
again, it comes from within to create a change, and empathy again plays a very vital factor to do such great initiatives.
I think that's a fantastic note to end on. All in all, kudos to Dr. Chitti in Bangladesh. Thank you for your work. So I am going to stop recording this session right now, but thank you so much for being here.
thank you.